Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. On today's episode, I've got my friend Shreyas Mogal with me. He is
Hey,
a
hi. Thanks for having me on.
he's a author. He also helps us with scripts. And you tell us more about you.
Also, yeah, as just mentioned, I'm an author. I'm also a poet and I'm an engineer. I am also the
Very
chief operating
importantly,
officer and the
first and
co-founder
foremost.
of social media. Yeah, we're here to talk about poetry.
Yeah, oh yeah. Today the movie we're gonna talk about is Dead Poets Society. And as I
That
was saying,
poet
very
society. Yes.
importantly, he's an engineer because, as you know, everyone in India is first an engineer, then you figure out what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about the movie. Tell us about your connection with the movie.
So I actually first watched the movie back in 2016 when a friend of mine
Okay.
suggested me the movie because he found out that I hadn't watched the movie and he called me an idiot for not doing so. So when I
Okay.
watched the
Okay.
movie, I figured that yeah, he was right. I was an idiot for not watching the movie. It connects to a really emotional level. The the way they've captured every essence of a student's life, their emotional
Right.
aspects and everything, it's perfect.
Hmm.
For example, you see, there's this underconfident kid called Todd Anderson. His
Right.
He is brilliant, but he's underconfident because he's got so much pressure and expectations on him because his brother went to the same school and he was a topper.
Hmm.
Then you also have
Yeah.
Neil. Now he's a smart kid, he's an artist, but his father wouldn't let him be an actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way I really loved it. So they've captured every essence of the moment. It's relatable to a lot of people out there.
um, for me, I saw the movie first time some 5-ish years ago. Back then, I was in engineering. This is right before I dropped out.
Hmm.
So there were a lot of movies that I watched
Okay,
before I dropped out, and this was one of them. This was one of them.
right.
And I clearly remember the dialogue from this movie, that medicine, science, engineering, these are all
Engineering,
noble
these are noble
pursuits.
pursuits.
But poetry, love, romance, this
Poetry,
is what
what you
what we
stay
live
alive
for.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
To quote from
Uh,
Whitman, "O me, O life, O the questions of this recurring, of the endless trails of the faithless and the cities filled with foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life? Answer that you are here, that life exists, and identity is that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. So what will your verse be?"
this was exactly what I felt when I watched the movie first time. This is exactly
Exactly,
what
right?
stayed with me. What stayed with me, I was like, yeah, this is.
Yeah,
I'm in an engineering college, and that's all cool. But what is gonna be my verse? What's gonna be my contribution in this poetry of life? You know.
right, yeah.
Um, After that, I watched it today, 5 years later today, to
Okay,
be
oh wow.
honest. But I
I
watched it
watch it
because
once
because
every
I
month. That's,
okay. I watched it because I
yeah,
had to write notes for the podcast. But definitely
okay,
a very great movie. So that's my emotional connect with it.
yeah.
One thing I noticed, in the very beginning, the first act, all the boys are coming with the banner and everything, and this guy who plays the principal,
Mhm.
he comes and he addresses the parents and everyone with, ladies, gentlemen, and boys. And I was like,
Boys.
you anticipate that boys and girls is gonna follow, right? Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls.
Right,
I
yeah,
was
ladies
like,
and gentlemen, boys and girls.
that's when I was like, I see the problem here. There's no
Boys
girls.
school.
There's no
Yeah.
girls. I see the problem. I've actually went to a co-ed school, a school where there's both girls and boys.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been a co-ed system through and through. Have you been, or have you been to a boys only school?
Oh, I was in a co-ed school.
Do you know people do you have friends who have been in a boys only or girls only school?
Yeah, a couple of them, yes.
And isn't it quite weird in today's era, there are still schools and still colleges which are like,
It really is. And I mean, the point, they don't have any contact with the other gender. And the point they leave school, it's quite weird for them to interact with the other sex. You know,
exactly.
the way to be sophisticated, how do you behave around them?
Yeah.
It sounds really weird. I mean, I don't see any need of it.
No, but I don't understand. Like the world is a co-ed place.
Hmm.
Okay. both the sexes exist
Right.
together. So why should there be
Exactly.
anything in the world that doesn't give equal opportunities to both?
Exactly. There's absolutely no reason you can think of.
Yeah. I also realized one
And
thing.
it might actually make them worse.
Yeah, it only makes the situation worse, you know.
Yeah.
So one thing I realized, I felt
Mhm.
tradition is a nice, sophisticated way of saying comfort zone.
Absolutely, yes. This is the
No,
way it
could
has
be,
been, and this is the way we want it to be.
could be I'm wrong, but I really feel like, tradition is a nice way of saying comfort zone, brother. We're gonna stay in here, not gonna walk out, not experimenting new things.
I'm sure, yeah, there
Uh,
are few traditions which you should follow. They're really meaningful,
sure,
but some of them don't make sense.
agreed. After the ceremony, as you pointed out about this guy, the principal meets his parents and then is like, Acha, you are Todd
Mhm.
Anderson. You have some big shoes to fill, my.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
I don't know, I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, you have great shoes to fill, young man. Your brother was one of our finest. Have
Finest.
you experienced that growing up?
I'm an only child, actually.
Okay.
So I haven't exactly had more expectations from my parents. And I'd say I'm pretty lucky about that. They never pressurized me. So, yeah.
For me, I am also a single child, but
Hmm.
my mom was a teacher in the same school where I studied. So I was always held up to
Okay.
this mark. You're a teacher's son. You're a teacher's son.
Mhm.
And
Right. You have to be smart.
I'm smart. Okay, but I was absolutely notorious. Absolutely notorious. Okay,
Okay.
like yeah, and that was a real problem when your mom is a teacher. Especially, you're like, how can you be so notorious? Your mom is a teacher.
Exactly.
But I feel there's like a much deeper problem in there. You are already judging someone by the standards of your brother or sister or your mom or dad.
Yeah.
You're already holding somebody to be someone else.
Exactly. It's unfair to compare a person to another individual. It doesn't make any sense. Every person is his own. We used to have those classmate notebooks when we were kids.
Yeah, yeah,
On
yeah, yeah.
every classmate notebook, it was written, "You are one of a kind."
Yeah.
It was really meaningful.
Now that I think of it, yes, it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still written probably in their books, but not sponsored
I
by
haven't
Classmate,
used a
guys.
book. Yeah. Definitely not.
But yeah, I remember. Yeah, now that you say, I remember it
Yeah.
was written. Also, Neil, what's his last name? I can't remember.
Neil Perry.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
right after the first scene, after the first setup act,
Mhm.
his dad, comes in his dorm room and tells him to stop taking
You're
part in
doing too many
something. And
activities. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You're
and then
doing
he
too
asks
many
him to
extracurricular activities this semester.
yeah, yeah, and then he asks him to come out, and then the first thing he says, "Don't ever dispute me in public. Do you understand?" I'm like, "You don't dispute him in public."
It's, it's like there's an unwritten rule. You have to respect elders. It doesn't matter how stupid that elder is. You have to respect him. Period.
I'm sure, like growing up in India in 90s,
Mhm.
20s, we both have faced that quite a bit. I'm sure we both have
Absolutely,
faced that.
yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about something. Does it come to your mind? Do you have some experience, something similar?
There's a lot of experiences. Like I've always been a person who speaks back, and my parents would
Same
really
here.
agree to that. Yeah. So every time I hear an opinion which doesn't conform to me,
Hmm.
which sounds stupid, but I'm not allowed to
Hmm.
say it because he's an older person, so I'm not allowed to dispute him.
Right.
So I'll get that angry look by my parents. Don't say that. Respect him as an elder. So it doesn't matter that he has stupid opinions. He is an elder. That's one thing
Mhm.
about opinions. People say that you have to respect everybody's opinions, but there are a few opinions that you can't respect. You can't respect a
Hmm.
person who has a sexist opinions. You can't respect a person who thinks it's fine to cheat on a relationship. You can't respect
I agree.
some people. And it's okay. You should respect everybody's opinion, but there are a few opinions you just can't.
I agree with you. I agree. And what has been your workaround, by the way? Like, we all have our workarounds, right? So what's been your workaround?
I try to shut up.
Okay.
It's really difficult, but yeah, you have to do it. Or I try to explain them in a very sugar-coated way that you are wrong. This is the way it actually should be, and you're wrong.
Right.
It's a thin line to it. Sometimes it's a thin line to walk.
You wanna know what is my way?
Yeah.
I just don't get into those conversations. Either I don't get into those conversations, or if I end up getting into those conversations, I quickly run away. You know, when I realize this person is not getting it, I'm like, you're right. You know, I think I'm getting a call. I think you're right, but I'm getting a call. Also, one thing I noticed, you know, there are montage shots when you know the school begins. There's montage shots of different teachers, teaching different things. That really reminded me of my school, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And the way they're teaching trigonometry, like it's something which is bound to go a bouncer to you, you know?
I agree.
You won't understand it at all. And that's something, it's just a little short. It's like about 5 to 6 seconds, but you get it. You get the dread of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, trigonometry, boy.
Those 6 seconds brought me back into my 10th standard classroom when I was sitting, the professor was trying to explain, and I was in a different world. I wasn't getting anything. I was like, there's still 35 minutes in this lecture, damn it.
I've actually never had problem with mathematics or trigonometry, any of that sort. But I've always been scared of chemistry. I've hated it.
Okay.
And I never found the point of learning chemistry.
Okay.
It is in no way going to help me in my future, that I'm certain of.
Now that you think about it,
figured out organic chemistry.
Now that you think about it, pretty much this podcast would completely turn into a rant about the education system. But pretty much when you think about it, there are so many things that we are taught in school which are never gonna come in handy. You know, they are just taught to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like why even trigonometry, for the matter of fact? Why?
Yeah, you don't need it. I mean, not everyone needs it.
Yeah,
but instead you can teach us what taxes are, what exactly they are, how many types there are. Tell us that.
Emotional intelligence, what are finances, sex education.
Emotional intelligence, yeah. We've never been taught of that. I mean, the only sexual education we got was in that little chapter of biology. That was it.
Which, by the way,
my teachers never elaborated on it. Yeah, same. Our teacher literally said, "You already know more than me."
Exactly. That's what exactly my teacher
said. We are not supposed to know more than you. That's disturbing that you don't know. How could you know less than us? You're 50 years old.
that you know, now that I think logically, that really makes me worried about her sex life.
Yeah, right.
It would be really shit, right? If she knows less than like a 16-year-old kid.
Exactly.
I know, yeah. That's exactly what our teacher said, and the whole chapter was skipped. And you know what's the worst part? When you grow up, you start dating, and by chance, if you date somebody who is from a Western country, who's from US, either of the countries in Europe, she's gonna be like, "You Indian men don't know anything." I'm like, "It's not my fault, yeah. It's not my fault." My teacher said, "I know."
Precisely. My teacher told me I know everything. So I'm on that confidence. I have that confidence.
I just showed up. I was like, "Yeah, bro, we're gonna win this." And then you're telling me I don't win anything. I agree with you. Yeah, that whole montage, coming back to the movie, that whole montage really, like, it induced dread in me. I was feeling dreadful,
yes.
Just 10 seconds short. And that's when we are introduced to, the professor. What's his name? John Keatings.
John Keating, yes.
Yeah. His entry itself is Amazing. It's like he already has.
He comes with the whistle. Yeah. Come on.
And then he asks children to come out of the class, go to a different class.
Yeah.
Which is now that
And it's funny how it is already weird to the students that they're asked to come out of the class. They're all looking at each other like, out of the class? What? Why would we do that?
Yes. In fact, we all have faced that, right? Like we never used to go out of the class, other than we had a sports period, a PT. PT, it's not sports. It's
PT. PT, yes. PT.
Physical training. Yeah.
Physical training. We used to play Langdi.
Yeah. So the only physical training I got is sat under the trees and watch other people play. I was a very introvert guy. I didn't have a lot of friends. Okay, and I was really not into sports. So all I did is I just.
You were notorious but introverted.
Yeah. So the only physical training I got was like looking at other people. But now that you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, right? That kids should go to like different classes or should go outside their own classroom multiple times in a day. Like how can you assume somebody to sit in the same place for 6 hours, 8 hours in a day and learn
something? Learn about the world, entire universe, the working of it. You can't expect to learn that in just sitting at one place.
I agree. Like, when you are teaching biology, I don't understand why a teacher cannot take children to the playground or something and show them, this is the flower. You want to talk about the plant reproduction system? This is a flower. Everyone pluck a flower. Everyone, this is a petal. This is, I don't know, whatever else flowers have inside them. You get the point. These are the pollen grains.
We don't mean to do that.
Sorry?
Environmentalists, we don't mean to destroy trees.
Yeah, but I think that way kids would learn and understand. At least that is something that would have worked for me much better.
Definitely, same here for me.
Oh, by the way, one thing I noticed is, the second time he's in the classroom, the John Keatings.
When he talks about why you read and write poetry.
Yeah. The scene starts with him flipping open a book. He's flipping through pages. His hand is insanely hairy, bro. He looks like Wolverine. Have you noticed that?
He
looks like Wolverine in that scene.
Yeah. It looks weird. I mean, it's noticeably weird.
Yeah. Like, how did, the makeup artist or nobody, like, pay attention to it? How did that happen?
I know, right?
And this is like a movie that came out in, 1989, if I'm not wrong?
1989, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it came out in the 40s and it was...
It was cool to have more body hair.
Yeah. You tell me something.
That is actually a very good scene.
Which one?
When he's flipping through the pages and he's talking about Understanding Poetry by Mr. J. Evans Pritchard, PhD.
Yeah.
And he draws a graph. So this is the importance, this is the perfection. So Byron is high on perfection, but not much on importance.
Yeah.
While Shakespeare rates high, you can't rate poetry.
You can't rate anything, any form of art. That is something I've written that
art. Yes.
Even I find it very disturbing. Why does people have this obsession of trying to fit everything into predetermined boxes?
Right.
Like they'll take a beautiful circle and then they'll be like, yeah, but it doesn't fit in my box, so it's not good.
Exactly. And this is what art is about. Art is about going beyond the impediments. It's going beyond limits. You don't conform to a certain thing. No, that's not what art is.
I agree.
It even applies to music. You can't always write your music on a 4x4 beat. You have to try other things. You have to experiment. That's what art is about. You have to write your feelings, your emotions.
Exactly. Like that is how you come up with something like, the famous song that I can't recall right now. Damn, dude. The Queen song, Bohemian Rhapsody. Yes. That's how you come up with things like Bohemian Rhapsody, of course.
Exactly. He mixed rock with opera.
Yeah, who thought about that? I think there are very rare examples of a song that has rock and opera both in it. Very rare.
Yeah. I mean, the only band who has experimented more than Queen is probably Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Of course, Pink Floyd is a league of its own. to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me something else about the movie. Something else that you really found interesting.
Um,
Or something that has stayed with you.
it's about the character of John Keating, the way they portrayed him. He never aggravates to students. He never gets mad towards them. Even when there are kids like there's this kid. I don't remember if it's Dalton or someone. When he's
Who
asked to
just
write
wrote
a piece of poetry,
and he
oh
said
yeah,
cat is lying
the
on a
cat
mat.
sat on the mat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the way John Keating responds to him, okay, some of the most famous poetries are about simple things. It can be about a simple theme.
Right.
The way he responds to every situation, it's really beautiful. That you don't need anger to be your first reflex. Don't even go with your reflexes. Think about it. Think it through. You can always reply with a more appeased manner.
I agree.
And
That's
the way
something.
he talks
Yeah.
talks to Neil about chasing his dreams. It's been really beautiful. And the way he helps Todd Anderson to overcome his introvertness, his underconfidence.
Yes. Yes. That really got me thinking about the kind of English teachers that we had. I'm not sure about you, the kind of teachers that I had, English teachers. Let's think about it. Let's go down the memory lane a little. The kind of English teachers that I had is there's this one teacher who wasn't good in English, and she was an English teacher. Irony.
Oh, that's basically every English teacher I've had, man.
Yeah, she'll just read through the book with a pronunciation all over the place, and and then she'll read it, and then she'll be like, "So you guys understood, right? Cool. Moving on." That was one.
The thing about the pronunciation is I've noticed one of our English teachers even pronounced the word pronunciation incorrectly.
Okay.
She called it pronunciation. But
That's like
it's pronunciation.
But that's like a typical Indian problem. We think it's pronunciation.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's also, I think it has a lot to do with, how we are taught English as kids. We are, I don't know, I've seen in Western countries, it's very common. And these days it's really common in cities like Mumbai. The newer kids who are now in school, they are being taught like P is supposed to be pronounced with your lips. I don't know. You get the point, right? Like which kind of sound.
I get the point.
What parts of your mouth you're supposed to use. We weren't taught that. Right? We weren't taught that.
I went to a state board school where we didn't converse with each other in English. The students in the school we never talked in English. And if someone did speak in English, he'd be made fun of. Like you're being an oversmart kid. Like
so I was that kid. I was that kid.
Yeah. All right. I used to argue with my teachers, but never my friends. So I used to speak a complete Hindi or Marathi with my friends because I had to. But then I would really argue with my teachers.
Now you know why I didn't have friends, right?
I remember one instance when I was in 10th. In the unit test, I scored 18 on 20 in English. So the highest you could score was 19 because they had to cut 1 mark for some stupid reasons.
Yeah, that's like a fuck logic that many schools had.
Yeah, like we are not going to give you full marks in languages. So the reason she cut 1 mark of mine because there was a question which asked for my personal opinion. So I wrote the answer and she says it's wrong. I said it's my
fucking opinion.
Yeah, what do you mean it's wrong? No, but we want a positive answer. You've applied a negative perspective to this. Like, yeah, but that is my perspective to this. The question specifically is, what do you think of it? This is what I think.
I think we had one of those teachers as well. I think in high school, we had one of those teachers. Yeah. She'll never give you full marks in English, no matter how good. Yeah, dude, really weird. Really makes me reflect on what are you even doing? What is this? What is the point of this kind of education system?
Right.
Where are we going with this? Why students cheat in exams? because they think
Because
marks are more important than morals or being right.
education, yeah,
Yeah, like you're
because that's the way we're taught.
that's exactly where your education system fails, right? You're teaching
Exactly.
kids, you're corrupting kids essentially from the very childhood. You're essentially teaching them
Yeah.
marks is more important than being a good person.
Mhm.
When in reality, being a good person is everything. Everything else will follow, or at least so do I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what they've shown in Dead Poet Society as well. That you're limiting your kids, you're limiting the students. We want them to be free thinkers of society because
Exactly.
undoubtedly these kids are tomorrow's future.
Yeah,
People like you and I, we're young adults. We are going to shape the future of the country. People like us,
true.
we need to be free thinkers.
True that.
Yeah,
Like people don't often get it. Kids, be in school, be in college, be in infants, they are not preparing to live for the life. They are living their lives. This is their life.
yeah, exactly.
They're not
And you're
preparing
taking it
for
away
it.
from them.
Exactly.
There's this for the
Hmm.
against argument. There's this teacher in the school, Welton High School, I think, right? In Dead Poet Society.
Yeah. Yeah, who has like a
Yeah.
small
So there's this
confrontation
teacher.
with Keatings.
Yeah. So he says a beautiful piece of poetry. It says that show me a man unfettered with foolish dreams, and I'll show you a happy man. It basically means don't have foolish dreams. Don't dream something you can't achieve, which is pretty stupid. It's dreaming, and that's why Keating replies with, "But only in their dreams can a man be truly free. Was always thus, and will always thus be."
True that.
It's a beautiful interaction between them. Yeah, these are your dreams. You are going to be completely free in this. Let it be unfettered.
I agree. That even in our lives, we may or may not achieve everything that we dream of. But if we don't dream itself, there's no place to start, right? You don't even know what
Exactly.
to do,
Yes.
where to get started.
Yeah, and that is scary, man.
True that. Also about this movie,
Mhm.
it's so much deeper. The idea of carpe diem.
Carpe
You know
diem. Yes.
how he keeps they keep bringing it up again and again. Carpe diem.
Right.
Seize the
Carpe
day.
diem.
Seize the day. That's
Gather your
so
rosebuds while you may.
true that. It is so important. People often tend to forget. I think this pandemic has really put us into perspective that how fragile
Perspective.
life and society and the systems that we depend on are.
Yeah.
They're so fragile.
Mhm. Yeah, we're actually very trivial. We're insignificant in this universe. This powerful play. We are nothing. We don't actually mean anything to this universe. But you
True.
and I are here. Just life exists right now. So what are you doing about it? Are you living your life or not? It's beautiful when he shows pictures of former students to the current students and say, "Look at them. They've got the same haircuts as you. They think they're invincible just like you do."
Mm.
And they had their hearts full of hope, and they believed that they were destined for great things, and that's how they
I agree.
achieved great things, because they believed that they were destined to do so.
I agree. That's true. That's like a lot of people, even Steve Jobs, I think in his Stanford speech, he said, today you are the new, tomorrow you'll be the old. The new will come and replace you, and that's the circle of life. That's the circle of life.
Yes, absolutely.
What is new today will be old tomorrow.
Right.
And I think
the movie, it's we are food for worms, my lads. Because believe it or not, each of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die.
that was very deep. I'll be honest.
I know, right?
I started watching this movie like a few days ago, 2-3 days ago, and I completely didn't get it. The point of your food for worms. Today, when I saw the whole thing in one stretch, then I understood. Oh, that's what he means.
Carpe diem.
Yeah, dude. Especially when you consider the pandemic, how it has taught us how fragile everything is. Like we took flights for granted. Going to, I don't know, you want to go somewhere, Bangalore, Dubai, wherever, book a ticket. If it's outside the country, get a visa. It's easy, it's simple, it's done.
Yeah.
We took it for granted.
Or even look at that. You live in Navi Mumbai. I live in Kalyan.
Yeah.
It was so close together. I used to travel to Navi Mumbai every day for college. But right now it seems like it's miles apart. It's so far away.
I agree.
It's beyond my reach right now.
So till last month, I used to live in Vashi, as you may know, and I was living really close to the local train station. But it's like a walkable 5-minute distance. But there was a time during April, May, when the lockdown was really strict. That was very far. Like a 5-minute walk outside the home was not possible. Like we couldn't do that. It has given us a great perspective, I can't hear you.
Oh boy, I muted myself. Yeah. I feel like a boomer.
Well, there's a lot of boomers in this movie.
Yeah. Everybody who was not a boomer is a boomer today.
Oh yeah, that's true. But the movie is fairly old now.
Yeah.
But this movie has a lot of boomers, not minding their own business.
And not letting the kids mind their own business.
I agree. But so here's the fun part. Since I have also dropped out of engineering, I sort of know the other side of this. Like parents are like genuinely worried. Parents want the best for you, right? So I don't know. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's about drawing a line.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's I get it. Many parents, they are worried about their kids. They want the best for their kids. But I think it's somewhere about drawing the line between wanting good for them and letting them, play with fire.
Be happy.
That's the word.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah, of course, everybody wants what's best for their kids, what's best for their own lives. But they should think of this, that what they think is best for their kid. Does the kid think it's best for him? Is he happy doing it? I've seen so many people in my engineering college who don't want to be an engineer.
That's
the only reasons are my parents told me, or my friends are in engineering, or I don't know what else to do.
That's
they're all very frightening, especially the third reason. I mean, how do you not know what to do in your life? It's not like you should have your next 50 years planned, but at least whatever you're doing, do it because you want to do it, not because you're forced to, or because you need to do it.
I think in India, one of the problems is because I went to engineering because of the third reason. I didn't know what else to do. I felt that in India, we don't give emphasis on finding your calling, on finding what you want to do, finding what your talent is, or what you want to do. We don't pay enough emphasis on that in India. We just see, like I come from a family where everyone is either a doctor or an engineer. So I clearly didn't want to be a doctor. I was very clear on that. So I went to an engineering college.
Okay. Well, you're an entrepreneur now, so I think that's more than engineers or doctors.
True that, but I feel, as a society and as culture, this thing is lacking in us. The idea of it's okay that after school you don't go to college for some time. You spend a year, 2 years finding yourself, finding your calling, figuring out what you should do.
Right.
You tell me more about the movie. What other things are your favorite? What's like your favorite scene in this movie?
Favorite scene has to be John Keating's second lecture, when he talks about poetry. He talks about why we read and write poetry. It's not because it's cute, it's because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. That particular interaction, it's beautiful, the way he interacts with the students. We all yearn for a teacher like that. Everybody wants someone like that in your life.
I agree. That is true.
What's your favorite scene?
Now that you have said that one, I really have to think of some other scene. I think the one that left me with most impact is the ending scene, is the closing scene, when he goes to the classroom to collect his
Captain, my
personals. and when he walks out, and gradually every student climbs on the bench, on the desk.
Right.
That really shows that he's been successful. That really shows that he has been able to
Exactly.
make them free thinkers.
Yeah, it's a place in the heart of students.
Yeah. I think that's been.
And the first time that he stands on the bench on his desk and he asks, why do you think I'm standing on the desk? To feel tall? No. To put things into a different perspective. And it's very metaphorical. I mean, in that situation, he's literally standing on a bench and seeing things from a literally different view.
Right. Right.
But in life, you have to do that. You have to look at things from a different perspective, try a different approach, see what's working for you. It always gets you a wider view, a wider picture.
Right. Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. That at times, there are a lot of disputes that could be solved if you look at a different perspective. There can be a lot of problems which can be solved only if people look at different perspectives at the same thing.
Right.
Other than that, in terms of cinematography, I felt like this movie was shot on a film, not on a digital camera. Because it's very common for movies in that era to be shot on a film. Another thing is, the first time they go to the cave, the kids, they go to the cave, it's a dark night outside and you see the shadows of the trees. You can see a lot of graininess. You can see the camera is struggling, because it's so dark. And if it's a digital camera, these graininess are usually, very predictable, very, what's the word? It's very uniform. The graininess in a digital camera is very uniform. This is not that uniform. It's quite free flowing at times, and that is usually a trait of films. And that shot is lit in a very specific manner. It's dark, but you have a lot of moonlight coming from behind. It's not exactly moonlight, of course, but that's what they want to show.
Right.
You see that there's a lot of white light coming from behind the kids.
Yeah. The cave was actually a complete set. It was a fake cave.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I recently read that they actually wanted to make the movie as a musical.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a musical film. Yeah. They were going to make it as a musical film. But then they changed it, saying that it might be better on a prose, completely showing it.
Thankfully, they didn't make a musical. I actually don't like musicals. I don't know. There are very few musicals that I like, but I don't like many.
Okay.
What about you? You like musical films? You don't?
I've only liked one musical film, and it's Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, that's a musical film?
No, not Dark Side of the Moon. What's the other album? I think it's The Wall.
Wait, I don't know. I think I don't know either of them as musical films. I only know them as...
The Wall. There was a 1982 film.
Wait, it's a film? How? Where can I see it?
Yeah.
Where can I see it?
I have it. You can download it.
Okay, so I can just go to YouTube and search and I can find it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll send you the link. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So what happens?
I'm not sure YouTube somehow got hand of it. It's all about a musical. It's practically the story of another brick in the wall. Well, the students they're forced to do the teachers leave.
I think I'll have to see this. I've heard of the songs, but I didn't know it's a musical movie.
Yeah, you should, man.
There's a great musical play called Alexander Hamilton, which is based on.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's great. You should try it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen the play, but I've heard it. You can find the album on Apple Music or Spotify something, and it's quite long. I think it's around 3 hours or so, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me more cool facts that you know about the movie then.
I recently I'm really curious about the movie. I watch it once a month, so I was looking around some facts, and I saw that they were actually going to shoot it in Georgia, but then they would have had to get fake snow, and it was too expensive. The movie was not actually made on a huge budget. They couldn't afford fake snow, so they decided to shoot it in Delaware.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even know it's shot in Delaware.
I read it. Yeah.
I actually have done no research around the movie. I've only seen the movie. So tell me as many cool
Okay.
facts as you know. I actually don't know either.
I don't
Anything.
remember many. I don't remember much now because it's been months since I read that. But some
Okay.
things just stay with you, you know.
Yeah. I think the whole idea of carpe diem really stick with me. Really stick with me. One thing that really stick with me is this guy really
Yeah.
likes a girl, right? He likes a girl and she invites
Yes.
him to a party and he kisses her on the
The
forehead. He's like
Danvers.
carpe diem, and then he kisses her.
Carpe
So when
diem.
he's going to kiss her, I'm like, carpe diem, bro, do it. And then
You're rooting for him. Yeah.
yeah, like you're rooting for him, and then he gets beaten, and I'm like, could have at least kissed her on the lips, okay? Like at least the punch would have been worth it.
Yeah, it would have been worth it. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess even he gets a good ending, right?
Yes.
Even he gets
It's
a good
Nuanda.
ending with her. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is something that really stick with me, and yeah, I think that is it from my side actually.
Yeah. And of course, I think we haven't addressed the most heartbreaking, the heart-wrenching scene just before the
Which one?
climax.
Which
About
one?
Neil Young. Neil Young.
Yeah.
Why did I say Neil Young? Neil Perry.
Yeah.
Shoots himself. Yeah.
That is that's a very touching scene, you know, like when his parents have him in a corner. His parents have told him this is what you're gonna do. Like
Right.
he's not even
Whether
given
you
an
like
option.
it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's when he's really in a corner, and I did really feel bad for the guy.
And that is something you've seen in a lot of things, man. A lot of children go through the same thing. The parents don't allow them to do what they want.
Yeah. I agree with you. Have you lost somebody?
Yeah.
Have you lost a friend, a classmate, someone like that?
No, not by suicide, no.
Okay, so there was a guy with me in high school back in 11th, 12th.
Mm-hmm.
He killed himself, I believe 4 years ago or something. I think he would have been in college. I don't know. I wasn't in touch with him ever since school. So I don't have any clue what was happening. Okay, so I wouldn't want to say that he killed himself because of this. It could be a million other things. But
okay.
Yeah, that I know that feeling of, you know, somebody that you went to school with, somebody whom you knew, and he used to sit next to me, you know. And we were decent friends. And my mom, and his photo came in a local newspaper, and my mom told me on the phone next morning. So sort of know that feeling, you know, like when you know somebody so closely, and you know your childhood friends, your school friends, they are like glorified, they are like, you know, stuck in that time in your brain.
Yeah, you grew up with them, man. Yeah.
Exactly, like in your brain they are still the same guys. Like you can go and punch them right now if you want.
Right now, yeah, that would be completely like the old days.
Yeah, and yeah, when you hear about someone like that, you don't exactly know how to process it.
Right.
And you know what's the sad part? In India, at least, I don't know about other countries. In India, more kids die because of suicide than they die because of accidents or diseases or anything else. And
right.
It's really high time, you know, that people wake up, people realize that our education system is shit. And no matter how good you perform in it, you're still going to come out shit because the system itself is shit.
Because there's always going to be someone better than you, and people are going to compare you to that person.
I agree. There's always going to be that somebody's son.
Exactly. Yeah. You did great, but there's somebody who did better than you. Why did that happen? It shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Until I don't know, that somehow becomes behavior, right? From school to college. Then when you grow up, you see other people are going on a Europe tour and you can only afford Lonavala and that hurts. Or you can only afford Goa while everyone else is going to Miami. And that just becomes a habit.
Gets cancelled, of course. Because it's Goa.
Yeah, like 99 Goa plans get cancelled. Only one goes through.
I still haven't been to Goa, man.
I
I'm through
haven't
4 years
been
of
to
my
Goa.
engineering, but I haven't.
I haven't been to Goa either. But with all said and done,
But
that sort
then,
of becomes
yeah,
habit. That sort of becomes a behavior that you always look up and you always compare yourself with someone. And then you do that to your kids. You make it a habit for them then.
right.
Yeah, dude. So
The new education policy seems really promising, man.
I've
Students
actually
are at
haven't
least allowed
taken
to
it.
have multidisciplinary. Students are allowed to have multidisciplinary courses. You can study
Okay.
economics with engineering if you want. That's
Okay.
totally cool. And I think it's really much needed. I would have taken poet or literature with engineering if I had the choice.
Okay. I would have taken nothing that had to do with science or engineering at all. I would have
Okay.
probably taken let me think about it now. I would have probably taken some type of poetry. I would have taken some sort of poetry. I would have taken calligraphy, and probably given up within 6 months. Not sure. I might have picked up some sort of musical instrument for sure. I would have picked up some sort of musical instrument.
Okay.
And I would have definitely picked up acting, script writing, maybe directing, video editing. Video editing is what I do for a living right now, so I'm sure I would have did that.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked up anything that had to do with science, engineering, commerce, economics, any of that.
If I get a chance again, I'll still pick engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the choice I made. I have no regrets.
I would pick up engineering
anything,
if engineering was more fun. If they actually taught things that really got the juices flowing,
Right.
I'm sure, like even now, like back when we were in college, and even now, I'm sure they teach like obsolete things that nobody gives a shit about.
The teaching us about microprocessors from 1980s. Nobody uses them, and we don't need to learn them, man. People don't code in those old hexadecimal softwares anymore. People code in C.
And you know
Python.
what I asked?
Moreover, I was an instrumentation engineer.
And you know what's the worst part? I once asked my computer science teacher, the one who used to teach.
We had subjects which taught us the programming languages of C, Java, which were actually of no use to us. I'm an instrumentation engineer, but I know how to code.
So I was in IT, and I was also taught the same C and Java and stuff. And my problem is not the languages. The problem is you're never taught the logic. You're never taught to think like a programmer. You never, what's the biggest strength of programming? Why everyone should learn programming is because it teaches you how to think, how to break down big problems into small chunks and then solve them.
Absolutely,
you're not taught that in Indian engineering.
That's a nice perspective. Yes.
You're not taught that in Indian engineering colleges. You're just taught like write, print, hello world. And I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah, but the new policy to me, it really seems promising. They've done a lot of changes. They're removing some obsolete things. They're adding some actually useful things. Let's see.
All right. Cool.
I think we're not benefiting from it. There are people who will. I mean, we grew up cursing the education system. Yeah.
Sure. True that. So, all right. So I think for me, that is all about the movie. I think you want to share anything before we leave, before we close about the movie?
No, I think I'm done from my side.
Great. What is the one biggest takeaway from the movie for you?
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world.
Wow. That is, I think, really the most beautiful line in the movie. For me, let me think. I think for me,
it's Carpe Diem.
It's Carpe Diem because, we as humans, the problem is we are a little too smart for our own good. We like to plan about the future, and there's nothing wrong in planning, but there's everything wrong in being stuck there. Everything wrong in being stuck with the worry of how tomorrow will go. fuck tomorrow, man.
Yes.
Focus on today.
Focus on
Win
today.
what
Yes.
you have.
Yeah. There's this line in Fight Club. It talks about how your life is. This is your life, and it's ending every 1 minute at a time.
Yeah.
It was just one line, but it's so profound that this is your life and it's ending 1 minute at a time. What are you doing with it?
Makes sense. Cool. And with that, I think we'll call it enough. We'll call it a day. Thanks a lot,
Yes.
Shreyas.
Thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
Yep. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Hopefully the pandemic gets over and we get to meet each other soon.
Yeah, we can actually work on the scripts that we wrote together, man.
Yeah. All right, man. Take care.